You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. I am your host, Tumbly Drunk, and tonight at episode 207, we're going to be taking a look at the most recent news around Overwatch, its competitive scene, as well as look ahead to this weekend's Overwatch League matches, which of course will be week number 12. So before we get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, let me just quickly take a moment to thank everyone who is joining us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and of course thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host Edinar, and Ed, it's been quite an interesting week. I will say we've had a few different things as a community, that have definitely not been in the best of light. Like, I don't know, people being hateful in regards to Fran's involvement with the Echo Showdown. We have a lot of rumors regarding the Titans. We have the Valiant tilting the Gladiators off the face of the planet due to running, like, off-kilter compositions, and a lot of back and forth on that ends. And then we got, something else happening with Echo that people aren't happy about. There's a lot of stuff like kind of like compounded into like 1 week, and it's honestly it's kind of been exhausted. I don't know how you're feeling.
I mean, there has been so much drama in regards to Overwatch this past week. It's kind of insane how much there is, and you kind of get sick of it. You're just like, oh my god, we have become that toxic league now. Like, it's getting bad. I mean, and there's no transparency from the Overwatch League, so we're only seeing like bits and pieces of drama there. Then we have the same asshat Reddit heroes, talking about the Echo tournament and who won and who cost what, and it, it's it was just idiotic. And yeah, I don't expect the drama to subside, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting annoying.
Yeah, so let's go ahead. Let's jump into the news this week. So I do want to point out that our dev and savior Papa Jeffrey Kep hinted at potential May changes that were to come this week. I can only assume that the changes he meant were the ones that were added in regards to the experimental card,
Mm-hmm.
which we are covering. So, we might as well just skip ahead to his comments in regards to the next developer update and what that is going to focus on, and then we will talk about the crowd control changes that were kind of like hinted towards on our last episode. So our dev and safer Papa Jeffrey Cap praise him. He's been pretty busy answering a lot of different, general discussion threads on the Overwatch forums, and there was a user, Steven Dragon, who requested a few new voice lines, or was wanting to see new voice lines added in regards to helping out when it comes to in-game callouts. Now, Kaplan noted that they are working on a cool update that will address this feedback. More info in the next developer update. Now, for those that are wondering, of course, we do not have any ETA in regards to when that next developer update could be dropping. But, there's still more that can be done in regards to, the communication wheel that's available in the game for everyone. And we've talked about this before. We've always kind of been wanting a ping system to some extent, and we know that this is something that the dev team has considered in the past, and even going back to, say, like November, we knew that the UI designer, that being Junho Kim, was wanting to experiment again with a ping system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is something that, we've kind of been accustomed to based off of some other games, primarily, Apex Legends. And, we have seen a little bit of crossover in that regard with the Overwatch player base. And, of course, that's crossover into other games that's been going on with Valorant having an invitational. And I don't think Overwatch made it to the finals, if I'm not mistaken. They had
I
a
don't think
decent
they
run.
did.
But yeah. So when it comes to like in-game communication, what do you think like a ping system would bring that would otherwise be kind of like lacking so far within the game here?
Well, I mean, God, the ping system would just be amazing. Not just a ping system. I would say a double ping system or even a triple ping system. So what I mean by that is, a lot of people just a ping system just means, oh, let's ping over here. Well, that could mean a lot of things.
Right.
A single ping could be, let's go this way. If you like with the mouse wheel, that's what I would have it bound to. So a single click of that is let's go this way. A double click of that is there's an enemy over here. Or if you want to hold it down and then select which one you use, you could add options like I'm flanking this way. Type of situation. So yeah, like that would be amazing. Honestly, that's the only thing about a communication wheel update that I think would be worthwhile to put in the game. I can't think of another aspect of a communication wheel that would actually be not worth putting in, but worth like talking about publicly. Right. Like adding more voice lines is not like a groundbreaking thing.
Yeah, because people would just spam
system, it. Yeah, but adding a ping system is kind of groundbreaking addition to the game. So I fully expect this to be a ping system. When we get it, nobody knows.
Yeah, like my only issue with a ping system when it comes to location is how they go about high and low ground. That's really like my biggest question mark right now, and how they're gonna go about doing that, because there is a lot of verticality in regards to the Overwatch maps out there. Outside of that, though, like, yes, this is something that we've been wanting, even if it is only like paying for like in objective or location or to be in an enemy location. I'm sure a lot of people would use that. And then like, you also have to factor in, well, you're gonna have to be doing more voice lines too, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue, considering that a lot of people are gonna be working remotely at this point. But this has been something that's been on the radar for the dev team for, it's honestly felt like a year plus at this point. And it's kind of gotten shelved a time or two, but it seems to be something that keeps making its way back around. So I don't know if this will be like an immediate thing. Maybe this could be something that they could kind of like roll into Overwatch 2 with, in regards to, the new maps and all the new features that are going to be added with that as well. But that's kind of like taking the backseat to the next thing that we're going to talk about, because the next thing could definitely make things very interesting moving forward to just the overall design of the game, and that's in regards to crowd control in Overwatch. Now, this is something that they'd hinted at this past week, and we do have details in regards to, what abilities they are going to be changing. So, Kaplan basically noted that, they are walking this fine line when it comes to crowd control abilities, and the intent of these changes, and again, this is experimental, so they might get patched through, they might not, we don't know yet. But the intent of the changes is to make crowd control abilities affect you less and have a lower overall impact on the game with these abilities. And they noted like they do have bigger ideas for crowd control when it comes to Overwatch 2. Now, a lot of these got durations lowered, but there was one CC ability that actually saw an increase, and that was with Roadhog. So specifically when it comes to his ultimate Whole Hog, where they increase the knockback by 20%. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, Roadhog hasn't really necessarily been, making waves lately. He's definitely more of a ladder hero than anything. Not really seeing a ton of play unless people are running, pulled pork, which is a rarity nowadays in the Overwatch League. But I do like the idea of opening up, more environmental kills for another character out there, just because this one is a little bit more unconventional of a use and far less, on like off cooldown than say like a Lucio Boop or Pharah with the concussive blast.
Sorry. Yeah, no, that this is all these changes were just weird though. The whole hog buff, the knockback, I think actually is big. I think it's how do I put this? It's a big buff, but it's the like probably the least least important one out of all of these. Like, because everything else that is happening has this craziness. I mean, I think Sigma accretion is huge. Do we want to go through these one by one?
No, let's just knock them all out at once. I'll go through the Ryan and Sigma one, and then you can take over with like the DPS and supports.
Okay.
Okay, so in regards to durations being lowered, we have the Reinhardt Earthshatter knockdown duration being lowered from 3 seconds to 2.5 seconds. Sigma, we have the accretion knockback duration now at a fixed 0.8 seconds, so it no longer scales with distance between you and who you were hitting with accretion. And then they also reduce the accretion cast time from 0.75 seconds to 0.65 seconds. Now, Ed, I will say, like, on paper, when I was looking through these, I was like, this one definitely, to me, seems like it's going to have the biggest impact, primarily just because I feel like it takes a little bit of, I don't want to say necessarily like a skill out of accretion, but you definitely had more of an impact the further you were launching, your rock throw with. But, I get why they did it. So I guess for me, it would be a matter of how long could the accretion knockback duration actually go up to in the past to see, like, how much time we're actually kind of, like, shaving off of that. And then if there was a minimum threshold that was actually lower than what they have it fixed at now, to kind of, like, compare and contrast, the before and the after effect here.
Yeah, I can't decide whether this stuff with the accretion is a buff or nerf. Like, yeah, the cast time was reduced, but again, I think it only hurts those people who were highly skilled at the long range accretion shots.
Yeah, the lob shots.
Yeah, but this is a buff to people who do it up close, or where you can actually realistically aim. So overall, I think that's probably a buff to Sigma. And I mean, I can see it because Sigma has been hit pretty hard lately with the nerf bat. So yeah, and the Reinhardt Earthshatter, that's a half a second of stun duration is a lot. That's pretty big nerf. Like, it doesn't seem like a lot. You're like, oh, it's a half a second. Well, half a second is a long time to difference is a long time in not using your abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll read these DPS ones. The McCree flashbang stun duration lowered from 0.85 to 0.7 seconds. And then May endothermic blaster freeze stun duration lowered from 1.5 to 1.3 seconds. Blizzard duration lowered from 5 seconds to 4.25 seconds. So again, not the changes we had expected.
Multi-freeze still intact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's the sneaky thing though with the McCree nerf that I don't think is being talked about that much. I don't think you have enough time right now to do the flashbang double headshot.
Okay.
Like I think you lose the ability to flashbang double headshot because I think the duration between when you stun to when you can first fire is like 0.3 something seconds. And then it's 0.45 seconds for another animation after you fire. So it's like you don't have enough time while they're stunned to get the double headshot. Now you still can because you have that split second right afterwards, and if they don't move immediately, then you can get them. But I mean, that seems pretty big to me. These main nerfs, again, they didn't do enough. I don't think this is going to change anything about May, to be honest. So yeah. And then the healers, as Anna's sleep duration was lowered from 6 seconds to 5 seconds, and Baguette's shield bash stun duration was lowered from 0.75 to 0.65. I don't see those being huge issues.
Yeah, I mean, you really weren't like chain CC in with those abilities.
Yeah, no, like the Anna sleep dart was mainly to just interrupt someone or like stagger them or something along that lines. It wasn't to take them completely out of the fight. You want to maybe stun them from doing the ult or, you know, doing whatever. You're not doing it to like CC them, freeze them like a May would.
Yeah, the way I look at the Anna change is that is one less second where someone can accidentally wake someone up.
That is very true.
And like for me, like the McCree one, I love playing FFA deathmatch. And Flashbane, since existence, has always been a crutch for a lot of McCree players. Not necessarily people that have great aim, but the crutch was enough where, they still had enough time to kill during the stun duration, and hopefully this will make things a little bit more even in that regard. So at least it gives you more of an opportunity to escape, rather than you just being caught like a fish in the barrel.
So yeah, these are the changes. I'm a little surprised they did not do anything with Doomfist or the boop from Lucio. Like, well, I guess the boop from Lucio really isn't crowd control. It's just a knockback.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't impede you, but Doomfist, yeah. So yeah, I think the only one they really missed that has a CC out there is Doomfist.
So in retrospect, then, since Doomfist is kind of out of the equation when it comes to these changes, do you feel like this is an indirect buff to Doomfist?
No, I just don't think it is, because he fits only in certain comps,
mm-hmm.
And it's just because he can CC somebody for an extra 0.2 seconds,
right?
Doesn't make him must play.
Yeah, Spider is mentioning like Doomfist is never really played for his CC. A lot of it's just due to the kill potential. When it comes to him, just getting easy entry, easy exit. such and so forth. But anyway, so all of that stuff going on experimental card this week. I'm actually pretty anxious to check this one out as opposed to some of the other changes that we had seen. But let's talk about the hero pool for this week. All right, Ed. So let's go on a journey here. So, we got this new hero release with Echo. Echo gets put into competitive play right out of the gate. And you know what? Blizzard's like, you know what? Like, we really like this new hero, so let's go ahead and highlight it. Let's throw this whole, like, Echo showdown over the weekends when we know that we have Chinese Overwatch League games happening on Saturday, Sunday, like, super early. So, we could just throw it on the Overwatch League YouTube. And then, we got all these big names coming into this tournament. We got some big streamers. We got Overwatch League pros. We got people on the path to pro. And, everyone has to play Echo at all times. At least one on each side. Now, imagine you're like, okay, well, we got everyone here already. Probably, well, that's actually not the case, because it's still technically tier 2. Besides the point. But they're like, you know what? Let's draw the hero pool for this week. Now imagine, you just decide to outright ban Echo right after a week of release. And it's like, okay. For one, obviously with the new hero release, who happened to be in competitive, the numbers in regards to the play rate gonna be a little bit accelerated because everyone wants to try the new hero. And I know that's not normal for having like a new hero in competitive right out of the gate. I don't know why they did that. That's besides the point. But it's kind of weird to me, primarily because you know that the numbers are going to be inflated. Two, like, we do know that 2 of her primary counters were going to be back into rotation this week with McCree and Widowmaker. And then, like, the cherry on top is just the fact that, well, Overwatch League isn't on this updated patch yet. So Echo technically wasn't even available at the time. So then it just becomes a situation where this particular DPS ban is only technically effective at ladder and not at, like, all levels like it's supposed to be, since it is universal at this point. Now, that being said, I will admit, when it comes to the hero, heroes being eligible to get pulled, damage was definitely the wonky one. There seems to be a very huge differential in regards to what people are playing on ladder because they find it fun or for whatever reason, and what the pro players are actually playing at the highest level. So there's still, like, this little bit of disconnect. But, it's just one of those things. It's like, it seems like each week there's another discussion in regards to hero pools and something just being amiss. Like, I would be fine if this was a situation where Echo would have been able to be played in the Overwatch League this week, but that was not the case anyway. So it's just like, well, now we're only banning one hero, whereas maybe we could have banned someone who was actually getting played at a very high pick rate in the Overwatch League that we wouldn't necessarily see on ladder. So I don't know. It's one of those things, but, it just sucks seeing the inflated number come into play, the hero getting drawn, and then not being able to see how Echo was going to do the week where the counters were coming into play against her. So now it's kind of hard to gauge where Echo is in the grand scheme of things until all of those pieces, like, sort of align there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was odd. Knowing that Echo couldn't be played even if she was available leads me to believe the only reason that she could really not be banned was the simple fact that everyone would be like, "Why is no one playing Echo?" Like, people would be like, "Echo's out in the game. Why isn't she, like, available to play, and they just said, we're going to take this into our own hands and ban her. Is that a valid reason? No, but it's the only reason that could give any sort of clue as to why they did this.
Yeah, or
Because it's not.
maybe it was a mistake having her in a comp right out of the gate. Maybe that wasn't intended. Like,
Yeah, it could be, and like they can't point to the stats of, she was like one of the the highest played DPS in ranked last week or
Mhm.
whatever. It's skewed because it's a new hero. It will always be a new hero. Will always be the most played the first week they're out.
Right.
So like, you can't just go off stats. If that's what you do, just purely off that, then it's a massively flawed system. Which it kind of already is. But that's besides the point. I just don't get it. Yeah. It's I just don't. Yeah. Hard pass. I can't justify this.
It's just one of those things because like right now it honestly does feel like we're banning the characters that people that play on ladder feel like are fun to play, as opposed to banning the viable characters, so to speak. Now, I do want to point out, like, when it comes to the usage rate and the breakdown, like, if we're talking about, okay, how many heroes could have been pulled from each category, really, damage was the one that was almost non-existent because there was only Tracer, Ashe, and Echo. So, one of them was going to be safe. In this case, it was Ashe, who did not get picked, who was, kind of like the one in the middle there. So Tracer and Echo are the DPS bans. For support, we have Moira bans. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she was third highest in regards to play rate in regards to the Overwatch League, because it was primarily Lucio and Baptiste compositions. And then for the tanks, this is where it gets interesting when we kind of look at what's being played on ladder as opposed to what's being played in the Overwatch League. And in the Overwatch League, it was a lot of double shield, a lot of Orisa, a lot of Sigma. And then when you look at the pick rate across the board, you actually had 7 tanks that were above the threshold that could have been pulled this week. So you had Sigma, Orisa, Winston, Zarya, D.Va, Wrecking Ball, and Roadhog. That's I don't even need to do the math in my head. Obviously, Reinhardt was banned. There you go. There's all the tanks.
Yeah.
That's never happened. Like, that was like
No.
so cool to see, at least. So like at least in this regard, it's like, oh, so like I can't imagine this is going to be an every week thing, but it does come to show that when it comes to, like, say, what people are playing on ladder, we talk about there being no meta. Everyone is finding ways to incorporate who they want to play at the tank position, and I really love that because we never really get to see that coming into play here anymore.
No, you don't. I mean, when every tank has played over the threshold, which I did not think was going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I don't think anyone really did, but it's as flawed as hero pools is. This is the point of hero pools, is to get stuff like this. So I mean, while the hero pools does have flaws, it is working as intended and it's working correctly, which I do like. In regards to getting people to play, the teams to do new comps, making sure there's not one stale meta or anything like that. So yeah, now it's a matter of, are we going to start seeing that more and more with supports? Possibly, because with different tank comps come different support comps.
Right.
So maybe next we see all the supports played. So that'd be good. I'm a fan.
I don't think I'm gonna try to hold my breath either way. It's just a matter of will there be a disconnect at a position every single week? Because this week it was definitely the damage, only having 3 being eligible. And when you look at the Overwatch League pick rate, the 2 damage dealers that were primarily played were not in those 3. That being Mei and Reaper. So that's the thing that's really kind of like confusing a lot of people because they aren't really mirroring from the Overwatch League down to ladder or vice versa. So there still is a little bit of disconnect on that front, but who knows? Maybe things will eventually even out. We'll have to, kind of wait and see how things are going to unfold in the weeks ahead. But just, I want to see more weeks where we have like 5 or 6 in more than one category, as opposed to just being one side, top heavy, and then another one just kind of being bottomed out. So who knows?
Yeah. I mean, ideally, I think we want that most with DPS. Get like 8 or 9 DPS up there. That would be best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't think that is going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, it's like a situation where who knows if Mei, Reaper, Torb will ever be eligible to get pulled.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the threshold that they put forth, since it is based off of rumored to be top 500 plus.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I don't know. It is what it is. It changes every week, so you know what? I'm fine with that.
And regardless of what happens, someone's gonna find something to complain about with the hero pool every single week anyway. So,
for sure,
it's guaranteed. Just go into the cesspool of Reddit. I'm sure you'll find it each week as soon as they're announced on Watchpoint.
Yeah, and the first comment will be something negative.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
There you go. So there's a lot of questions right now in regards to the Overwatch League, and there's I don't want to say like there's this dark cloud looming over the Vancouver Titans or anything yet. I will say there might be some reason of concern. So what's happening in Vancouver? To be honest, we don't know. There's a lot of speculation going on, but there have been a number of Vancouver Titans players removing any mention of the Titans from their social media over this past week. I know some of their coaches also went this direction. Jahan completely wiped his Instagram, and there's been rumors kind of circulating around the Titans, honestly, ever since they finished as a runner-ups this last season. And of course, we kind of saw the aftermath in regards to Bumper getting released, Tizzy was released, and they signed Fisher and Jahan, and now everyone's kind of jumping the gun and saying oh, this must be a Fisher problem. There couldn't have been any other underlying issues that were already happening with the team. Then you have the whole people that are, kind of stirring the pot when it comes to the whole family aspect of trying to tear Runaway apart. There's a lot of different narratives that are getting kind of thrown out there, but everyone seems to kind of be honing in on Fisher being the scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
Which
it's got to be Fisher's fault.
It's and I will say I am not surprised by the knee-jerk reaction, because since the get-go of that sign-in, the only comments we're really seeing weren't oh, Fisher is such an awesome player, he's going to do really well with this team. It's how quickly is Fisher going to cause this team to implode, and when is he going to sign with his 5th Overwatch League team, since he has been on more Overwatch League teams than anyone else in Overwatch League history. Yada, yada, yada. What's going to happen if Fisher decides to quit halfway through the season? Then what are the Titans going to do? So, obviously, there's some tension here between what appears to be the owner side, so the management, and then the players. So we don't know if it's a housing issue, if it had to do something with them moving back to Korea, whether it's their setup in Korea. We do know that they were playing from their houses in their prior matches. Whereas before they were like kind of like all set up in the same location in Vancouver. But you know, like we've obviously seen some instances with the ongoing pandemic where we have seen like cost cutting measures for some different organizations. So that might be a factor. Maybe, you know, it could have to deal with, you know, economics, could just be a lack of support from, you know, the org in some cases. Or, you know, it could be also to some extent also on the players because, you know, there's two sides of every story. But right now, it's just like we've had people trying to reach out to the org, and there's basically just been a ton of PR answers that really don't tell us anything. They say, oh, yeah, you know, a statement is coming. To some extent, when it's going to happen, we don't know. They'll be back on schedule probably in a couple of weeks. But a lot of hush-hush, a lot of speculation. So, you know, when you're looking at this team, Ed, like, how concerned are you? Because I've seen the narrative of the Titans are going to be the next Spitfire, and by that I mean, like, this team is going to implode and kind of, like, go their own separate ways, probably at the end of the season. Like, what are you feeling is going to happen here?
Nothing good. Let's just go with that. Honestly, we're gonna get the London Spitfire 2.0. You know, I basically think that the team's as good as, like, the players right now are as good as gone. And I don't think there's anything we can do about it. Obviously, the management team is basically saying, you know what? No, like, we're done. So it's a tricky situation. We don't know everything that's going on, but we at least know that they are all pissed.
Yeah, there's
even the coaches are pissed.
Yeah, there seems to basically be solidarity from a team's perspective.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing that I think the team, like, can do, really. Like, I don't think at this point they can repair what they've done to the play in the players' eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, we also don't know what they've done.
Right.
Like, that's another thing. We have zero idea what they've done. So I don't know. All I can see is them being basically SOL. And Haxel gone, Fissure gone, Janu gone. You know, I guess the real question is, who's going to be the one Krillin that's left behind?
That is a fair point.
Yeah.
I guess the bigger question, though, Ed, is does it take Vancouver imploding for the dynasty to finalize the super team?
I don't know. I don't think they can afford anyone else.
Probably not, but a man can dream. But who knows?
I mean, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I just can't think of anything. I'm trying to think in my head, who could they go to?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you figure, okay, well, they're in Korea, so you basically have Chinese teams. I don't think that's really in play. So you got London. I doubt. Cast my doubt right now, since, we have, London half. I wasn't gonna say 2.0, but I'm like, that's. We're still waiting to decide whether or not they're an upgrade over this past season, but, it's also been a while since we've actually seen them. New York. Dynasty. And, yeah. It's basically the Korean teams.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't know. Doesn't have to be the Korean teams, though. Like, Mayhem? What if the Justice decide to go all Korean?
I mean, they might get into that point based off of their performances.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, who knows if people want to deal with the pains if they are to be playing from Korea, travel restrictions, all of that stuff. But anyways, there's a lot. There's definitely an uneasy feeling right now in regards to, the Titans Discord and, the Titans fandom. Hopefully, we'll get some answers here in the coming weeks. But, just feels a lot of doom and gloom right now, and, it sucks not knowing what's going on, because we're just kept in the dark at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we see, the dark cloud looming over them, and then things are looking like brighter days in other locations in the region, like, say, for, the Shanghai Dragons, who have basically just been stomping people since they came into the season this year, as they only have dropped one match so far. They are currently 6-1, which I want to say is the third best record as of today in the Overwatch League this season. And, as this momentum continues to build up, they have actually expanded their coaching staff, and they added 2 new additions to their staff there. So the new additions include Quatermain as a player coach, as well as Khan as an assistant coach. Now, these are 2 names that are probably going to be familiar with Overwatch League fans. Quatermain was with the London Spitfire in 2019. If you watch Apex prior to that, you probably know him for his rap performances during the OGN days. That's primarily what I remember him for. Like, Quatermain as a player never really, was a standout for the Spitfire. But the interesting thing here, Ed, is Khan coming back. This is his second stint with the Dragons, and this was someone who was an assistant coach during the 0-40 inaugural season for Shanghai Dragons. And, traditionally, if you have a really bad season, a team generally doesn't bring you back.
Really?
Unless you're
That's
just
not how
a glutton for punishment. It's just one of those things. But I will say this. The Dragons, right now, they have 5 coaches on contract. They've definitely been a team who has built one of the larger front offices in the league. But at what point is it, too many chefs in the kitchen?
I don't know. If they can afford it, go for it. That's my philosophy on this. It's just, yeah, I don't know if this is something that real. I mean, we've seen other teams have massive amounts of coaches, even in contenders.
Yeah, Skyfoxes, cough cough.
That's who I'm thinking of. I was like, which team was
had
it?
40 people on their Liquipedia page. Yeah.
I just remember oh yeah.
Wait, Ed, I actually figured it out. This is what they did, right? They signed Khan to a 1-week contract, so he can get his only win in the Overwatch League, and then they're gonna ship him out.
Fair enough.
That's my guess.
I don't think that's the case.
No, I definitely not, but just throwing it out there.
I'm just gonna throw it out there. It happens.
See if it sticks. I mean, they're probably gonna get a win because they're not like the other Chinese teams who can only seem to split.
Boo. But yeah, I don't know. It's good for them. I think it's funny that Quartermain, Quartermain basically is like part of the London Spitfire blow up, and now he's with a team.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a different role.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Obviously things are going fine for them over there.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah, because I mean they're one of the few teams that are adding people and not subtracting people. So should be fun.
Yeah, they do have some spicy matches this week too, which I'm looking forward to. And speaking of the Dragons, a lot of the coaches have been placing them pretty high in regards to team rankings. So for those that don't really follow like ESPN esports, every week they have been doing a coaches poll, where select Overwatch League coaches rank teams from best to worst. Then they compiled the votes. They put them into like aggregate rankings. And we really haven't like brought this up too much or like revisited power rankings or anything like that. But I wanted to like kind of go over who they had like picked out for the top 5, primarily because I would personally say it's too early to say who they have at number 1 is number 1, even though I am a fan of said team. But let's quickly go over the top 5. So they have the Seoul Dynasty holding onto the top spot right now. At number 2, we have the defending champions, the San Francisco Shock, followed by the Shanghai Dragons at 3. And then we have the Philadelphia Fusion and the New York Excelsior rounding out the top 5. Now, I will be the first to admit, when it comes to the Dynasty, we might be a little biased. A little bit.
You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. Hashtag soulmates. But this is a team that has not played a ton of matches. No. Whereas if you look at, the other teams that are in the top 5 with them, you got like 6-7 matches around there. Obviously, we've seen the Fusion a ton here as of late, because, they weren't one of the Chinese teams who didn't get to play a ton. And then Shanghai's been like marathoning basically every week playing 2 games. So in your minds, like, would you put the Dynasty at number 1 in their current form, knowing that they only have a couple of games so far this season?
Yes. Yeah, I think I would. Just because, from what I've seen of them, they've done everything right.
I was personally, Ed, waiting for you to go, well, they haven't dropped a map.
Yeah, they haven't.
They've tied a map, but they haven't lost one.
Yeah.
But,
so, yeah, I would put them 1 until proven otherwise, because they're the only team we haven't seen weakness from.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things, though, because, like, when you look at games played, Dynasty have only played 2 games so far. They do have a map differential of +6. With 6 wins, 0 losses, 1 tie. But when you compare that to, like, the field for the most part, it looks like teams have played, on average, probably six games, I would say. The next
Mhm.
lowest only being four, which would be the Vancouver Titans, who are currently 2-2, with a -1 map differential. So I don't know. I will say, like, from what we've seen of the Dynasty, and again, this is based off of like double shield compositions, they have
Mhm.
looked pretty damn good. They were primarily running, Marvel and Gesture. We haven't seen Michelle as of yet. Potentially, maybe that'll change this week, given the bans and knowing that Orisa will not be seeing the stage. So maybe Gesture will take a step back. Or, maybe they'll be hyper aggressive and go dive. We don't know yet. It might not even be dive because, Tracer is banned, so who knows what to expect there. But, I do find it interesting that the coaches, since the get-go, have touted the Dynasty as, like, the top team. And it's been consistent regardless of, how many other games that these other teams are playing. And I primarily brought it up because, like, I know the Overwatch League does, like, their rankings as well. And one of, like, the Gen G staff members, I can't remember if he was, like, the CEO or what position, but it was, like, Arnold, who was, like, mentioning, oh, I didn't know that, there was skill rating decay because I actually had the Dynasty, like, drop in a position. I believe it was to the Shanghai Dragons in this case, where they went from, like, 2 to 3. So I got a good kick out of that. So it's interesting to see where they had some of these teams, and I didn't really like disagree with too many rankings. And of course, Boston bottoming out. Really no
Yeah.
surprise there.
I mean, yeah, there were a lot of surprises. I don't think the Mayhem at 16 is the right move. I also don't think Dallas should be at 13. Um, but if all right, I guess my question should be, if Seoul isn't number one, who should be number one?
Right now,
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to put it based on current rate of play and how teams have looked, I would personally put Shanghai number one.
Okay.
If I were to rank it, I would probably go Shanghai Fusion Dynasty after that. And then it kind of gets blurry because, like, the Shock have been kind of inconsistent, but, like, they've still looked good. But we've also seen a lot of different variations to that team. So I feel like we've seen more from them as opposed to, like, New York, who, track record wise and maps are probably the better team, but I don't think they're deeper than the Shock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Um, God, this is just a very weird top power ranking. It's like it just is. I don't get it. I don't like it. I mean, the top five, even the top five, I don't know if I truly like. Yeah, because that's even still wonky. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like these rankings, but I mean that's the point of power rankings.
Yeah, for
It's
everyone to disagree with them.
exactly. You're just like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see more after this week, maybe, possibly. I don't know. We got the matchup of the year so far coming up this weekend.
Yeah, at least for me. I don't know
I think
how you're feeling about that match.
I mean I think it's kind of for everyone. Cuz like yeah, I it's one of those situations where um you've got arguably the two best teams in the league going head to head.
Yeah, league and region.
Yeah. So you don't really get that all that often.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm excited for the matches this week.
Absolutely. So let's talk about week 12 that is coming up on Saturday and Sunday this week. So we're back to Saturday, Sunday games. So again, when it comes to the China games, they do start really early in the morning. So again, just as a reminder in regards to who is out of the rotation for hero bands, we have Orisa, Moira, Tracer. I was debating saying Echo, but I was like, well, you weren't eligible anyway, so whatever.
Like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's whatever. But anyways, so kicking things off on Saturday, 1 a.m. Pacific time, we got the Seoul Dynasty going up against one of their arch nemesis, the Hangzhou Spark. Followed by Guangzhou Charge facing the Shanghai Dragons, and then we have New York coming back finally to take on the Chengdu Hunters. So that is Block A on Saturday. So, you know, we kind of like talked about this a little bit on Overwatch League by the Numbers last night. And that is that the Spark have been a team who, history-wise, have had the Dynasty's number. The only time that Seoul has beaten Hangzhou was in a random show match under Mystery Heroes rules that no one counts. But again, like, this is a drastically different Dynasty team compared to the last time these two teams have fought. Spark have definitely been more of like an even split team this year, as has most of the region for China anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're Shanghai, then it's just you're beating everyone at this point. And you know
They have a loss, don't they?
yes, they are 6-1,
Okay.
but like when you look back, it's basically been, you know, Hangzhou, Guangzhou, and Chengdu keep going like 1-1 each week. Or, you know, maybe Chengdu goes 0-2 one week. But Shanghai has just been constantly a step ahead of the pack for that particular region. So, you know, we got the Dynasty basically just trying to, you know, get a little bit of redemption here. And, you know, there's part of me that's just like, man, I do not like this week on paper for the Dynasty. Primarily, for one, the history between the Spark and the Dynasty, and two, knowing that they face the Dragons in that second game, when the Dragons have just kind of been rolling, as much as I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, what second DPS could be the difference maker in that regard. But I'm pretty excited about this game. Plus, you got like Excelsior trying to erase that only loss that they had to Chengdu in the one time they fought, and they got like swept by the Hunters the last time. But then again, like the Hunters haven't looked that great either. Which, you know, we hate to say because like Leaf has been popping off, but you know, it just seems like the DPS potential has not been enough to kind of like outweigh some of the other issues that are on that team here so far.
Yeah, it's definitely yeah. The God, where do I even start? So the what team should I start with? Because so the Seoul Dynasty, I think, are going to just dominate this weekend as a whole. Just as a whole, they're going to dominate. I think they're going to go 2-0, and I think they're going to go 2-0 rather easily.
But will they drop a map?
Maybe. like if I'm being honest, they may drop a map. I don't think they drop a map to the Spark. I think Shanghai, though, they may drop one map too. That's about it. Like, I don't know. To me, right now, the Seoul Dynasty are just the best team. And I don't think it's even remotely close. So, I don't know. Would you be shocked if the Charge go 0-2? Not the shock, the Dragons.
This week?
Yeah.
I think it will be a split.
You
Hopefully. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, because I'm not sold on them being all that's cracked up to be. Because we talked about forever how uh, how even the Chinese scene is. Like every week we didn't know what was actually going to happen. And you know, there's to me there's no bad team in China. I mean, the Hunters are technically the worst, but I don't think they're a bad team.
Yeah, like the thing that I'm having an issue with in that regard is right now, if we're just looking at the records, you have the team that's at the top, the team that's at the bottom, and then you have the two teams that have just middled out. And at some point in time, something is going to have to give at one of those spots.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know when that's going to happen. But it just seems to be like, okay, Charge land a shot, and then a Spark land a shot. And it's just like, well, you guys are just tiptoeing side by side one another. Like, what's going on here?
Yep. What are you exactly doing right now?
It's like when you both juke, but you juke in the same direction, and then you just end up in the same position.
Mm-hmm.
That's
You're just
basically
like,
what
okay,
it is.
now this is awkward.
Oh man. But there is that looming question of, okay, well we saw the Titans come back into this region, and they dropped the ball against China Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not New York is going to meet that same fate.
From what we know now with the Titans, I can't put it in the same category.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know about all the massive amounts of drama that was going on with the Titans, and how I don't know what it was, but from what I heard and what like some insiders were saying is Haxel wasn't even basically allowed to come back to the team and play. That's why we didn't see him.
Yeah, it was something about like him not taking Scrim seriously, something along those lines.
Yeah, like he was basically banned from the team. And so like it was just a wonky ass situation. So I don't think New York is going to fall into the same trap that the Titans did. Also because, New York is just New York. They're just always good. And they've been over there forever.
And we've talked time and time again about the infrastructure of that team in particular. Even like from the ground level up, when it comes to like 5 Deadly Venom and all the work that they've been doing on the ground, like building up the fanfare in New York and just the presence that they have, and the amount of effort we've seen kind of like put into all the video stuff that they release. Now granted, there's been a couple of things that are like, what's going on here? Like the whole Anbox Reddit situation that happens. But for the most part, like New York has been just a solid foundation through and through.
Yeah, they've basically been like, there are a few organizations that are like, are in it for the long haul no matter what. And you're looking at the Fusion, New York, Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I think those three teams scream, consistency. Maybe the Gladiators as well.
Or the Satiators if, the Valiant tilt them by running off-kilter compositions.
Hey, they may be the Satiators, but they're the Satiators with a win.
Also true.
But yeah, it's I just don't see it happening. And we could actually technically watch this game. It's crazy.
I mean, I won't, because I'll be at work.
But you'll be up
But
during normal
I
hours.
am off Sunday, so, maybe...
Are you going to be up by 7 a.m. to watch it?
Probably not. I doubt it.
Yeah,
I know, that depends if that's going to be one of those days where I wake up at 3:30 in the morning for no effing reason. Oh, wait, I know why. Had nothing to do with me falling asleep during an esport event. Besides
no.
But anyways.
That's how boring Valorant is to watch.
Let's look at that second block for Saturday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We have the Atlanta Reign going up against the Philadelphia Fusion again. We have at 3 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, the San Francisco Shock going up against the LA Valiant in another rematch. And yeah, that's the two US games. So, Philly beat Atlanta, Shock beat the Valiant.
Biggity bam, biggity boom. I think everyone's...
It seems like Atlanta has... I don't want to say they haven't lived up to expectations, because they've definitely been facing some tough competition, but it feels like right now they are constantly trying to keep pace. And they seem to be falling behind in that regard.
They have no identity. Like, as odd as that sounds, they just don't have an identity. Like, I think the coaching staff is as lost as, as lost as some of the fans are. Like, in regards to what the heck are they even trying to do? It's like, okay, well, we're gonna get Sharp, Edison, Erster, Baby Bay in any sort of mixture. Let's get some random tanks in there. Let's get Kodak in instead of Dogman. Let's just throw everything against the window and see what sticks. Because we just don't know. Meanwhile, the Fusion have actually adjusted quite well. They're getting Fury out there. Smart move. Carpe's really come in on this year. Hisu has been performing very well. Ivy, EQO. Thank God we haven't seen Flippin' Chipsa. And then you have, probably the best performing support lineup this year. One of the top 3 support lineups in, Alarm and Funny Astro. Like, I think when it boils down to it, Philly is probably the number 2 team in the Overwatch League. We've seen some chips in them, some chips in the Fusion's play, but nothing that really is worrisome. But I've seen a lot in Atlanta's play that is worrisome.
Yeah, I remember preseason, we heard about the Edison sign-in, and the general consensus at the time was, wait, they have Erster and Edison? Is that legal? And we haven't really seen that come into play yet, which is very unfortunate, knowing how much coverage there is in regards to a hero pool, since both have been known to play Hitscan as well as Projectile. But it just seems to be like, Hitscan isn't banned. Alright, we're gonna throw in Baby Bay. Oh, people are running Tracer? Alright, let's throw in Baby Bay to play Torbjorn to scare off the Tracers. And then it's just like, what the other pieces? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's like they just practice one comp and then just stick with it. And, they'll switch up the comp, but they won't switch up the players. Like, it's some jacked up version of Ladder. So, let's try this. I know we haven't practiced it or talked about it, but let's try it.
Right.
So I think Fusion win this one 3-1.
Yeah, I think that's a
as
safe guess.
And as far as the Shock and Valiant go, the flashy pick is to go with the Valiant. But let's say this: Valiant, while they're better than the majority of everyone expected, they are like this year's Chengdu Hunters. They're doing cheeky stuff. They're going off meta. I'm like, if there's one team you can't go off meta against and out off meta them, it's the San Francisco Shock. Because are you going to try and out meta Rascal?
Well,
Architect?
okay.
Striker?
The problem with that, Ed, is the fact that we saw the Fuel go meta v meta versus the Shock, and something that was definitely more in the Shock's wheelhouse this past week. Granted, this did go to Met 5. Fuel couldn't close it out. But I think there is something to be said that teams have been able to punch up, I guess would be the phrasing to use here, when it comes to actual meta mirror compositions against the Shock.
Yes. But when they start to get cheeky, that's when the Shock can probably adjust as well as anyone.
Right.
And the Valiant's only hope in these kind of situations is to be cheeky, and go that route. It almost worked versus the Gladiators, but yeah, it's just the Shock are just too deep. Who knows? We may even see Super and Sinatra play this week. Oh wait, no, we won't. They're too busy playing Valorant. Which I'm assuming they will be doing after this year professionally.
Potentially.
Well, at least Sinatra.
Who knows? Moving into Sunday's game, looking at the China region / Korea. Kicking off at 1 a.m. Pacific time, we got the Hangzhou Spark going up against the Chengdu Hunters. Followed by, at 3 a.m. Pacific time, Shanghai Dragons versus Seoul Dynasty. Then rounding out that first block at 5 a.m. Pacific time, we got the Guangzhou Charge versus the New York Excelsior. Alright, Dragons v Dynasty. Here we go. For me, definitely the match I'm looking most forward to so far this season. Like, these have been two teams that I've had so much intrigue with. Obviously, there's a little bit of history here, just due to, Fleta moving over to the Dragons. Dragons have really been firing on all cylinders, even though they have a stupid mascot. Besides the point, I think the Dynasty even came out with, a new song today. I'm pretty sure I got a notification on my phone about that. I don't know what that new anthem is for them, or if it's any good. I'll have to go back and check that out after the show. But, these are two teams that have depth to them. Two teams that are highly touted by the coaching staffs throughout the Overwatch League. And, to me, this is definitely going to be the deciding factor of whether or not the Dynasty are that top team, and also whether or not the Dragons are deserving of being in that top 5 discussion, despite, what they have done so far, going 6-1.
Yeah, I think you just have more faith in the Dragons than I do. Because I really don't. I'm not saying the Dragons are bad. Again, it's just I think it's going to be much closer for not much closer than what people think in regards to how good the Seoul Dynasty is. Now, I'm very heavy on the Dynasty train.
Right.
And I think that they'll probably end up being, the best team. Plain and simple. I think maybe Shanghai can take one map off of them. I don't think we're going to get a 3-2. I think Seoul is really going to flex their muscles and go that route.
I was going to make a very terrible joke, but I So...
Please do it. Please do. You know I love bad jokes.
I was going to say, so at the end of this, they're going to be, the Swole dynasty, and it was terrible. That's the only thing I can think of because it's so close and it works as wordplay.
Yeah. No.
That's just the way that, you phrase that.
Yes. I mean, I see where you were going with it. It was a bad joke.
Well, of course. That's what I do on this podcast.
Who makes worse ones, me or you?
That's something for our listeners to decide.
Probably
they're probably just embarrassed for the both of us.
Yeah, I can see that.
And they're probably gonna listen to this and be like, "Oh, jeez, these fucking guys."
Yeah, I don't know. I think, they're just so. God, Soul is just so strong all around. I mean, they have the best tanking lineup probably in the league because they have the best depth. I mean, Marvel is probably better than the majority of main tanks out there, and he's the backup main tank. So yeah, they're just sickening. They're gonna be so good. Yeah, 3-1 for me.
I just want to see Michel play this week at some point.
Yes, that would be good too. Because, I mean, we definitely could see that. Mm-hmm. I mean, because, I wouldn't be surprised if without Reinhardt, you could definitely be seeing Orisa. Some Monkey. Oh, with Orisa, you could definitely maybe see some Monkey. Mm-hmm. But you could also easily just get Reinhardt, Zarya. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, or Sigma. I don't know who's their Sigma. Is Marble their Sigma? I can't remember. I know last year...
Everything's just a blur.
Yeah, I know last year's Michelle was, but that's when they only had Marvel as the main tank, really.
I'm gonna pull up the stats lab real quick.
Okay.
To give you confirmation.
And let's not hold back on the fact that Soul has the best player probably in the Overwatch League in profit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's closer than what I say, but it could not be. Now, as far as the other one goes, the Spark versus the Hunters, I think the Spark win that one pretty easily. And I also think New York probably beats the Charge pretty easily.
Going back to the Dynasty rotation really quick, Marvel was the one playing the Sigma. Gesture was playing Orisa. So we've seen Marvel coming in primarily because they have been running double main tank. Sigma top played for him, followed by D.Va. But that was only for 12 minutes. And then we've seen Orisa Wrecking Ball from Gesture at this point.
Okay, so we could definitely see an Orisa Sigma comp with Gesture and Marvel in there.
Well, no Orisa because she's...
Sorry, Reinhardt. Why do I keep thinking that Reinhardt's banned?
That was last weekend. Quit living in the past.
Yeah. You could definitely see a Reinhardt. I almost said it again. I almost did.
I know.
A Reinhardt Sigma comp from them. But yeah, we'll see. If one thing I know is not for certain, it's the Chinese meta in Overwatch, because they always do the opposite of what most teams do. So
right.
So yeah, then we just have the two other, NA games that week.
Yeah, Block B. So NA side at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, we got Florida Mayhem going up against number 20, Boston Uprising.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by the Battle for Texas, at 3 p.m. Pacific time when we got the Houston Outlaws going up against the Dallas Fuel. You know, like, Boston, man, like, you know, they're down to 6 players, they're under the league minimum, and we still don't know what the deal is with that. We don't know if there's, like, a fine associated with that, if they're gonna pick someone up, if at any point they'll have to forfeit a match. We don't know what the situation is on that front. But, you know, that team is definitely riding the struggle bus. So I'm not expecting too much of an issue for the Mayhem there. Outlaws Fuel could definitely be very interesting. I feel like the thing that kind of pulls this further away from the Outlaws is the fact that Dante can't clutch on Tracer, which is, for the most part, kind of just been that pocket pick that they could rely on. It's all reliable for Houston, that they're like, oh, if all else fails, Dante just go out there, you know, you can hit the back line, frag out, get a couple of kills, and then we'll turn the tide base off of that. They're not going to have that, so, you know, it might be more dominant in regards to how the Fuel is going to do this week. But, you know, I will say, like, we are definitely going to be more biased towards the Fuel based on the DPS line. But, like, even outside of the hero pool for this week, I think you and I would still both be leaning towards the Fuel in this particular match.
Oh yeah, I think regardless of the hero pool or anything like that, I think Dallas is the far superior team here. They have a stronger DPS lineup, regardless of what the hero pool is. Dallas's DPS is better. I'd say clearly the Dallas Fuel have a better tank lineup than Houston, and I'd say their support lineups are about the same. So I mean, given that, I'd say Dallas is going to get the win pretty easily. You know, there are Houston fans who are so stubborn that they think their team's amazing, even though they haven't proven it in 3 years. That they think, oh yeah, no, we're gonna win. No, you're not. You're just not. Plain and simple. As far as the Boston one, I mean, yeah, it's probably gonna be the Mayhem, unless somehow they start going their season 1 route of just popping off after they kick someone off the team for being a shit human being. Because didn't they kick off the He Who Must Not Be Named part uno and then go 10-0 the next stage? I think they did with like mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Is in place. They went 10-0 and won stage 3. So
Well, that was under.
you never know.
That was
You
under
never-
Krusty.
Well, you know what? So, but yeah, I'd still say the Mayhem are going to win that one, and then I think Dallas is going to win that one. I think both will probably be like 3-1s.
Yeah, it's gonna be probably a quick Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, probably. So what that actually means is going to happen is both will go through like map 7.
Just out of spite.
Just out of spite, just to be like,
Yeah.
screw you guys.
Yeah, Ramses will lock in all Outlaws players in daily and somehow end up winning only because of the maps played.
Mm-hmm. And then he'll be like,
And then he'll be like,
"The
oh
Houston
guys,
Outlaws
look
are
what
the
I did.
greatest."
Look, I played 5 players from my team and, you know, they netted me 800 points.
Because they couldn't close out a win.
But yeah, I will say, like, in regards to, like, overall quality of games, I feel like, you know, we have seen an uptick, at least for this week, compared to some of the recent weeks that I'm just like, I have very little interest in, like, half of these games.
Yeah, like I have interest in the majority of these games, but I won't be able to watch them because they're in China or they're in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, All right. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, gotta fought it up.
Yeah. I do like how New York technically plays at 8 a.m. Eastern time
Yeah,
in
local
New
time.
York.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, New York fans, in theory, could get up and just watch it live at 8.
Must be nice.
Right? You dicks. I mean, they have to stay at home anyway.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, man, I wish I could do that with the Dynasty games, but
Well, you know what? If
I have
it was the Chicago Dynasty, maybe it's the Soul Dynasty. I think they're trying to aim more for the Soul crowd there.
I mean, I guess.
Like, you know, they're trying to get that Soul Train started.
Jeez.
Yes. Wah, wah, wah.
Please
Ba-dum-ba-dum.
please tweet at us which Soul joke you thought was worse. Between
Um,
the Swole Dynasty and the Soul Train.
come on, the Soul Train's awesome. No?
I mean,
Fair enough.
the only Overwatch League train is the Shoo Shoo train. You should already know that.
Shoo shoo.
Yeah. And I think on that note, you know, I think it's time to close things out for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
before we make even
Probably the
bigger
best
fools
bet.
of ourselves than we already have. But anyways, if you guys want to help us out, please do us a big favor. Head on over to iTunes, leave and write us a review. Let us know how we're doing. We are always looking for ways to improve the show. And, you know, if you want to send us joke material because you think it's going to be better than ours, don't.
Because we won't use it.
But anyways, you can also find additional Overwatch-related content via Overwatch Recall, which you can find on our website at owlnshow.com/OWRecall. Then every Sunday, we do the episodic listing for the weekly Recall. So to keep up to date with all of that, follow Recall on Twitter at OWRecall. Now, if you guys are looking to support us, consider checking out our Patreon page, where we have tiers starting at just $1 a month, and you can find more info at patreon.com/OWL Network, where you too can join the likes of our Master and above patrons, Daniel, Owl, Kesha, Agent Life, and 044 in helping our network grow. So I do want to thank you guys again for all of your continued support. So with that being said, Ed, why don't you go ahead and let our listeners out there know how they can contact our show?
Well, you can reach us through email at hndoverwatch@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, and that's at hndoverwatch. We do have a website, and that's owlnshow.com. We also have a YouTube at youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. You can just come and join us on Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. And then we are streaming presently live on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLN show. We are Twitch affiliates, so come help support the show by subscribing to our channel and earn our network emoticon. Our podcast network does stream pretty regularly. So we have Overwatch League Network, which airs Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, usually. OWL by the Numbers airs Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific. Heroes Never Die. This show airs Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then we have Tavern Tales, which airs Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific over at twitch.tv/Tavern Tales HS. Now, tomorrow we are bumping it up by an hour and a half because honestly, I want to watch the NFL draft. So
I kind of want to watch it, if only to see technical errors.
oh god, yes.
Because, you know, there's been some issues with the mock drafts, and I want to see if it's going to happen live.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, it totally will. Like the 30 for 30 on this draft in 5 years is going to be the greatest shit ever. Like I'm just going to love it. But you can contact me personally on Twitter at Edinar83. or watch me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Ednart. Totem, where can they find you at?
Well, you can find me over on Twitter. That is at TotemlyDrunkCTR. And of course, I'm on Twitch also. Twitch.tv/TotemlyDrunk. So, with that being said, guys, hopefully you guys will be able to join us tomorrow night for our next episode of Tavern Tales when we continue to blame additional things on our good buddy Celestalon, as well as look at Newhouse, since Millhouse did get a little bit of a nerf. And by a little bit, I mean a lot of a nerf. So, enjoy your week in Overwatch. Go check out the crowd control reduction in regards to the experimental card. And, maybe play unfun heroes in ranked so we can actually ban heroes that, we just wouldn't use in Overwatch League too. And then, you guys can just keep playing what you want to play the following week. Just offset it a little bit. All that good stuff. Could happen. Throw off game the system.
Sounds like a solid plan.
I don't think we could collectively agree on it though.
No, we couldn't.
No, it's unfortunate. Someone's gonna mess it up. Oh well. It's worth a shot, you never know. But we'll see you guys back next week. Take care and have a good night.
Peace out, y'all.